Hey folks, how's it going? It's Larry the Batman fan here, and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be ranking rather, the best Nintendo consoles. These are just my opinions and my thoughts. Please, if you disagree, we can agree to disagree. You can leave comments, it's fine, but just don't be an asshole. That's all I say. Don't be disrespectful. So, how would I rank the consoles? Remember, we're just talking about consoles. We're not talking about the handhelds. We're not talking about the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance SP, or the Game Boy Advance, or that Game Boy Micro, which that came out at the tail end of the Game Boy sales, because nobody was buying the Micro. No one was. The bottom of the barrel, for me, surprisingly, it has to go to the Wii. The reason why it has to go to the Wii is because there is just too much shovelware on the Wii. I mean, granted, yeah, there is Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. You got No More Heroes 1 and 2. You got Mad World. You got some of the Call of Duty games. And you got Zelda Skyward Sword and Zelda Twilight Princess, but Twilight Princess not being exclusive because it was on the GameCube as well. And then you had a few others like Dead Space Extraction, Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles, Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil Archives, and also Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles, Oni-chan Barbara, Bikini Zombie Slayers, that's the full title. And then you had a couple of racing games on it that were actually pretty good. Like Mario Kart and Monster 4x4 Stunt Racer. There were two of those. Pretty good games. But then you had like 70% of the other games that were coming out, they were just complete garbage. They were crap, they were not very good. And, it was nice that they had Netflix in there, that they added Netflix. And they had, like, this way where you could download, like, old Nintendo games. So there was some qualities in it, but overall, being that there was just too much shovelware on the system, it has to go at the bottom. What I gave you before was basically the highlighted games. Next, I'd say is the Nintendo Wii U, because there isn't as much shovelware on it, minus like Hello Kitty Cruisers. For some reason, that game is going for crazy amounts of money right now, probably like $150, $175 for no apparent reason. But it's not a very good game. And then stuff like, Funky Barn, which is just a really boring game. The Wii U, the problem with the Wii U is there wasn't a lot of like great games on the system. And, even though it's backwards compatible with the Wii, really, you could only own about 20 games on the Wii U, and that's it. Like, yeah, I'm a collector and all, but I'm not going to collect games that I have no interest in buying. Like, a lot of the Wii U's library just doesn't appeal to me. I bought this thing a month ago, the Wii U. I see it right beside me here by my TV. But I'm just about done collecting for it. I think Monster Hunter 3 is the only game I'm going to get for the system, because there's nothing else worth getting on the system. I have all the games that I think are worth owning for the Wii U. I mean, yeah, there is also Devil's Third, which is a pretty cool game, pretty good shooter. But it's too expensive. It's like $350, and it's like I'm not paying that kind of money for one video game. That's just crazy. Stupidly expensive. And then I know there's also Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is a good game. But that game has also been ported to the Switch. That's the problem. It's that the Switch has like a third of the good games that are on the Wii U have been ported to the Switch. And plus, they were still making a lot of shovelware games. I'd say the highlighted games, the good games on the Wii U, is Super Mario 3D World, even though that game's been ported to the Switch. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, that's been ported to the Switch also, but it's a good game. Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one, that was on the Wii, and I think they have a way to get it on the Switch. I think they have a remastered version of that game. Then you got the, Mario Kart 8, also, again, ported to the Switch. Monster Hunter 3. And then Splatoon, the first one, which I think you can get on the Switch, remastered. I could be wrong. And Resident Evil Revelations, that's another good game, but that's also on PS3, Nintendo 3DS, Xbox 360, and I'm sure it's on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So it's been on multiple consoles. It started off as a 3DS exclusive, but later on it went on to other systems. So those are just a few games that I could name. Ninja Gaiden 3 being another game, and also Super Mario Bros. / Luigi U for the Nintendo Wii U. But there's just a lot of crap, a lot of shovelware on it, and to me it just has too many games that have been ported to the Switch. So yeah, as a collector you might want to buy it, but honestly, when 95% rather of the games have been ported to the Switch, it kind of makes it worthless to own. What's next? I'm talking so much about the Switch. The Switch is next, yes. This Nintendo Switch, finally, Nintendo made a console that has good games on the system, where it's not all crap and shovelware. They have a good variety of games to appeal to everybody, and they're being more careful on what they release on the consoles. So I will say that was good for Nintendo to actually have more adult titles to attract more of an adult audience, because nobody wants to play like the Toy Story game on the Nintendo Switch if they're like 25, 26, 27 years old, or Blue Fire, I believe, is one of the games that's on the Nintendo Switch that has some appeal, but not enough appeal. They want to play games like No More Heroes. They want to play games like Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid, things like that. They want to play more adult games. So, and even the adult is still attracted to Mario, because Mario is Nintendo's franchise. So of course they're going to buy a Mario game. But most of the games they're going to be more mature. They're going to be more adult. Or T14, because T14 does have some pretty cool games as well. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 being one of them. But yeah, the Nintendo Switch I think is a good console. The one problem with it though is the microtransactions. Nobody wants microtransactions when you buy a game. Just stop, Nintendo. Stop being greedy bastards. Stop giving us this shit, because we don't want it. When we buy games, we want the physical game. We want the full game. We don't want any bullshit going behind it, We want everything in the game. And I know that they're not going to hear this video because I got 40 subscribers, but if I had like what the Angry Video Game Nerd has, I would definitely be heard by Nintendo. But listen, if you do hear this video, Nintendo, just know we hate microtransactions in games, and we really wish it would be gone completely. And Sony's doing it too with the PlayStation 5. I'm getting turned off by the PlayStation 5 too. And I bet you the Xbox Series X is doing it too, because they're a bunch of greedy bastards. So, yeah. Besides that, Nintendo's doing a lot better than I think their competitors, because they're actually thinking a little bit smarter, not harder, and they're releasing some pretty good games. minus the microtransactions, which is a pain. And they're not doing the same thing. From what I've seen, all of my Nintendo Switch games I can play without using online. I can play every single one of them. I don't need to have online. Whereas the PS5, there's 2 or 3 games in my collection that are just sitting on the shelf collecting dust because I don't have online. We're not exactly a rich family here, so we don't have internet. And our computer is broken now, so we don't have that capability to hook this PS5 over here to the internet. So this thing I use for DVDs and playing my PS5 games, PS4 games on it that actually will play on the thing. Still, that really does turn you off. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. We're here to talk about Nintendo, not about PlayStation. There'll be a separate video for that. So the highlighted games for the Nintendo Switch, real quick, no brainer: Super Mario Galaxy, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Kirby. I forget the name. I know there's a Kirby game on the Nintendo Switch though. I just don't remember the title. It's Kirby something. Kirby Star Allies. I think that's the name of it. This is me guessing. I'm sorry. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that thing sold consoles when it first came out. It was like the only game to buy on launch. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3. And then No More Heroes 3. And then the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which just came out like a month ago. And then Persona 5, that's a good game. I recommend that. And there's a shooting game on the Nintendo Switch which is really good, and that's Doom. Doom is a really great game. So what else would I, let's see, we got the Switch out of the way, we got the Wii U out of the way, and we got the Wii. So what is next on the list? Well, because we're going from worst to best, I would say the N64 is next. I like the N64, don't get me wrong, but after knowing that there's 296 games for the console and that there's only about 30 or 35 games worth owning for the system, that really drags it down from the top 3, because a lot of the games on the system are sports titles or racing games. I think a lot of the library is that, basically. So, me personally, I could see somebody owning it, a collector. I own one. It's not fucking working right now, but I own one right now. And it's good, but there's just a lot of games that I would never pick up. So, I don't believe in collecting every single game for the console. If it's not a game that appeals to me, why would I collect it? Some collectors, they believe in full collections. I don't. Only if the library is like damn perfect, but you never do get a perfect library. So just collect the games that you enjoy, basically. So yeah, the Nintendo 64 is great. It came out in '96 or '97, and it was a really good console. But I just don't see any point in owning a full library, because there is a lot of sports and racing games. And that's as high as I can put it, at like number 4. The highlighted games for that system is Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Perfect Dark, 007 GoldenEye, Star Fox 64, Mario Party 1, 2, and 3, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, Zelda Ocarina of Time, The World Is Not Enough, 007, and Turok 2. Those are some of the games that I recommend getting. And also Duke Nukem 0 Hour. That's a good game. And the cruising games. Now we're on to the next console. The next console I will say that is in the top 3, surprisingly, is the GameCube. Yes, I didn't talk about the GameCube in my top 10. The GameCube is pretty awesome. I like the GameCube. When it first came out, I was like bashing it. To my friends, like, the GameCube sucks. GameCube ain't crap compared to the PS2 and the Xbox. The GameCube's gonna die. Well, surprisingly, it outlasts the Xbox by a year, which is really surprising. I couldn't believe it that it went on past the Xbox. 2007 or 2008 when it finally stopped making games. GameCube was fun. The only thing is that it didn't have a DVD player. You couldn't play DVDs on the GameCube. There were very few games that had online play as well. Only a couple of games had online. They didn't optimize that till the Wii. The GameCube highlighted games I would say is Resident Evil 4. I also like Resident Evil 0. There's like 5 or 6 Resident Evil games. They're all good. Mario Kart Double Dash. Day of Reckoning 2. WWE Day of Reckoning 2. That's a good game. It's tough, but it's good. Geist is a pretty good game. And then I also like Zelda Twilight Princess, Zelda the Wind Waker, and that Zelda the Four Swords Adventure. And that other Zelda game that had like the NES games, the Super Nintendo games, and the N64 games all on one compilation disc. That's pretty cool. And also the Sonic games. The Sonic Mega Collection. That was pretty cool. Even though it got a port on the PS2, it's also a good game on the GameCube. And Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2 and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Those are some of the games that I recommend. Oh, and also Time Splitters 2 and Time Splitters Future Perfect. Those are awesome. Good first-person shooters. And Nightfire. 007 Nightfire. And Agent Under Fire. Moving on now. Number 2 is the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo is awesome. Nintendo really blew our minds with the Super Nintendo. There was less bad games on the system. It was a lot of fun. There was still some bad games on it, like Shaq Fu and Batman Forever and Lethal Weapon. And that Captain Novelin game, the diabetes game, I heard that game was infuriating. And Home Improvement, just to name a few crappy games on the system. But there was a good library of games still. And it was just a great system, a lot of fun. You know, good time waster when you have friends over. And they really did make good games for everybody, the hardcore gamer and the non-hardcore gamer. Even though back then there weren't a lot of mature games, it just started with the whole rating system, but it was still pretty awesome. And a lot of people I talk to say Super Nintendo is the best system. But we still have one more system to get to. The highlighted games for the Super Nintendo, I feel, is Super Mario World, Super Mario RPG, Super Mario Kart. That's a good game. Zelda, Link to the Past. You got Super Smash TV. You got Contra 3, the Alien Wars. You got Castlevania 4, or Super Castlevania 4, as it's called. You had Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3. You had Star Fox. You also had a few underrated gems that I thought, like the Ignition Factor, RoboCop versus the Terminator, Operation, Logic Bomb, True Lies, and Batman Returns, being a few underrated games that I feel were worth playing. Then you also had the X-Men game on Super Nintendo, Mutant Apocalypse, I believe is what it was called. That was a good game. Hard, but it was a good game. Those are some of the games that I think are worth getting if you have a Super Nintendo. Number 1 is the NES. No surprise there, because when I did my top 10, the NES made my top 3. It was in second place. The PS2 just beating it by a hair. The NES, yes, going back to it now, the graphics look like garbage. But the games, a lot of the games on it are pretty fun. I know there's a lot of shovelware on the NES as well. But they are still, it's still nostalgia that kicks in and people want that console because it was the first NES console, Nintendo console. And it's a lot of fun. You know, and it's a great system all around. all around rather. The games that I highlight for the original Nintendo that I think are worth owning if you have an NES, and it is by far the best Nintendo console of all time. I have the most nostalgia with it as well as others. Anyways, let me give you the games I think are worth owning. Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. 3. I know there's also Super Mario Bros. 2, but that game is a lie because we got screwed. We didn't get the real version here. We got Doki Doki Panic in the form of Mario Brothers. First and the third game are great. Second game's just okay, not amazing. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. That's the best Castlevania game on the system out of all three. That's the one I recommend paying $40 for. Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, Russian Attack, POW Prisoners of War, Bubble Bobble, Ice Climber, Ninja Gaiden 2, Double Dragon 2, Ninja Gaiden 3. I don't recommend Double Dragon 3. I don't recommend that at all. That game sucks. The Wrath of the Black Manta was an okay game. Blaster Master was fun. Batman was a good licensed game. There was one Indiana Jones game on the system that was pretty good. Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. That's the only Indiana Jones game I recommend. I guess it's because it was based off the comic book and not based off the movie, so they didn't butcher it. They didn't make it bad. Boulder Dash, Solomon's Key, Star Force, Stingers, Lode Runner, Ice Climber, Super Tecmo Bowl football game, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. A lot of people will get mad if I don't put that on there. Ice Hockey Blades Steel. And Tetris. Gotta put Tetris up there. So those are just some of the games that I recommend. I know there's a lot of other NES games that were really good, but those are just a handful that I can think of off the top of my head that are worth owning. The NES overall was just a great system, and I highly recommend it for collectors. If you can't get a working NES, I know I've had like 4 NESs in my past, and I can't get any of them to work. I just bought the Classic 2 or the Retron 2, or you could buy the 3 if you want to play Sega Genesis games as well. I recommend getting that so you can actually still play your NES games. So that's what I recommend. That's my ranking for the Nintendo consoles. I hope you guys enjoyed. And stay tuned for more gaming videos, folks. God bless you all and have a wonderful day. Bye.